deep in the night, where the moon thins to bone, silently she listens, ancient, alone. Her hut turns slowly on taloned feet. Time creaks open where the shadows meet. Your name you'll hear and question how. Truths traded for fear and silence for a vow. Step closer if you dare, if the forest lets you pass, for not all who do ever leave her grasp. Hi, I'm Desiree.
And I'm Mariah.
We're two sisters with a love of storytelling
and the paranormal. And you're listening to
As
the Crow Flies. You do not learn of Baba Yaga. She is all the dark things a child is born knowing. After all, when we enter this world, doesn't our shadow enter with us? The moment you hold an infant to the sun, you see it, spreading below them like a cloak. Yes, this shadow twin is where Baba Yaga resides. So, I thought it would be fun to kind of follow our trail from the Chupacabra. Seeing as they originated in Puerto Rico and then somehow branched off into Russia. We didn't have too much more information there, but it made me curious what we might be able to find in Russia. And with that, we bring you Baba Yaga. Let's dive in.
So cute. We're leaving it in. I'm super excited to learn more about Baba Yaga. This is not any legend or cryptic that I've ever heard of before. So this was really interesting to research.
Mm-hmm. I have heard of it in passing and like seen references and kind of pop culture and stuff, but have, never really known much about it, them. You'll see, why I use those terms. So I wanted to start with a description that I came across, one of the first descriptions that I came across of Baba Yaga that was less witch-centric, less kind of old hag crone type of deal, and depicted it in a whole new light. So that was from Jenna Rose Nethercott. She wrote the foreword for this book, and it just felt like a very mystic, mysterious, just intriguing description. It really pulled me in.
Yeah, all of the dark things a child is born knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy and very like you can visualize it almost or imagine it.
Yes.
So it's a really interesting way of describing her.
And so it was followed by the author of the book itself, Kris Spisak, who said, "There is good, there is evil, then there is Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga refuses to ever do what's expected." And that twist really drew me in. So like the feminist kind of female empowerment version of this figure, this folklore character. And aside from the pop culture description of them being this old evil witch in the woods in this chicken-legged hut, it just shone a whole new light on her. With that, I want to jump into the more popular description of the Baba Yaga for anyone who's not familiar. They're most often described as living in this hut similar to like a wooden cabin. So not just like this rundown shack, but like a cabin in the woods on chicken legs, one, sometimes two. There have been other depictions of like being on a ram's horn instead, or a spindle, kind of calling back to that feminine women characteristic kind of history to them.
Already, I feel like I'm hearing or I'm picking up on sort of crossovers from like Hansel and Gretel and Sleeping Beauty. I'm hearing all of these other stories maybe are either feeding into Baba Yaga or Baba Yaga influenced those other fairy
Mhm.
tales and legends and things. So that's really interesting.
That was a major point that I came across, is that there is a lot of overlap in, like, especially with Baba Yaga originating in like Russia and more Slavic regions, in those fairy tales specifically, but then kind of in the greater folklore realm as a whole. And so as we get further into it, I think you'll see even more of those kind of little breadcrumbs into other fairy tales and folklore. I thought it was really cool.
So I did a little side quest, and the
Ooh.
first printed version of Hansel and Gretel was published by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. However, the story's roots in oral tradition and folklore are believed to originate from the famine-stricken era of the early 14th century.
Whoa.
So
So that's
again,
like
are
1300s,
these
right?
Yes, 1315 to 1321 is when they were found. So again, like, are these stories all of the same thing?
Yep, just with that little twist, a little bit of difference in, what woods did you find them in? What's going on currently? And, how does Baba Yaga fit themselves in nicely and, find comfort in that century? In the
Yeah.
next century, things will change a little bit. Technology's changed, and, you know, what are we dealing with now? Who knows?
And I also found the earliest known written versions of the Sleeping Beauty tale
Mm.
also appeared in the 14th century. Yeah, and I think, the creepiest thing to me is when you think of these fairy tales and what they're rooted in.
Mhm.
And like, as kids, we idolize these things, and it's like, what are we really talking about?
Oh, yeah.
They're crazy.
Yep. I don't know if you remember this creator who would talk about, like, London bridges falling down and Ring Around the
Oh,
Rosie, and,
Ring
like,
Around the
the
Rosie. Yes.
actual meaning behind these lyrics, and, um, just so much darkness hidden behind, a fancy outfit and some fun little tunes, a cheery kind of boop 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 boop, and
You can
everyone's
put
dead.
lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
Yep. Some pigs are cute.
There. Yeah.
Many of them,
Not these ones.
no. These
I think
these are the
we
bad ones.
need
The hairy tusked ones.
yeah, yeah. A what are they called? A boar.
Oh, yeah.
Wild boar. I think we need to do a fairy tales episode and
Oh,
dive into each of our own.
maybe just start a series. We'll see.
Yeah.
So from her home, she is then depicted as like this old haggard witch, the stereotypical long beak-like nose, scary, foreboding looking, not really somebody that you want to come across in the dark woods. And specific to Baba Yaga, it was said that she travels in a mortar with a pestle as maybe like a rudder, maybe a weapon, maybe just a accessory. And when I read that, I was really confused because the mortar and pestle that I'm familiar with is like all I can picture is like a guacamole bowl, that like shallow dish. Apparently in this region there's more of a long, tall, slender version that had a longer pestle, a long, deeper basin, that grains would kind of be mixed and crushed in. And so that version is what she travels in. And then also said to carry a broom with her to sweep away her tracks behind her. So you never know where she came from, where she's going. She just is. And lastly, one of the more notable things that comes up in a lot of the stories about Baba Yaga is the fence around her house. So while the house can move, the chicken legs apparently can be functional. They don't always move. When it's in a stationary spot, there's usually a fence made of bone with skulls on top of the fence posts. That should give you a pretty good picture of the popular version of Baba Yaga. I want to add, though, that I was trying to find the earliest depictions. You know, where did this start? I was able to get information showing that, like, the earliest depictions, the earliest images of this character were found on woodblock prints around the 1600s. And then the earliest known writings about Baba Yaga were 1755 in a text called Russian Grammar from Michael W. Lomonosov, which just kind of referenced Baba Yaga. And then later in 1780, actual full folklore stories, several of which were about Baba Yaga and, you know, full tales from Vasily Levshin. So 1600s, 1700s, that's just what they found in writing. So I can only imagine verbal oral stories as they're being passed down, how much farther back that goes. Decades, centuries before the 1600s. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, you know, kind of like that quote from the origination of humans, Baba Yaga. But I love just, I guess, again, back to the crow comparison, I love to just like pick up these little tidbits and carry them with me. And, you know, those are my trinkets, my little prizes for myself.
I agree. I was just thinking about the meaning behind our name too, and how, you know, we take the path less traveled and we'll go off on these little like side quests and other
Mhm.
concepts and things that come up in conversation, and we find out a lot of really cool and interesting things that way.
Yep. We're an encyclopedia of knowledge that no one will ever fully get to see. But this is our best attempt at sharing. So there was one other depiction that I wanted to share, knowing that Baba Yaga goes back, you know, at least this far, at least into the 16 and 1700s. The first written depiction of them was from Vasily Levshin, and this is the description. Suddenly, a great whirlwind arose. The trees made way on both sides, and I saw Baba Yaga galloping in a mortar that she urged on like a horse, with an iron pestle. Her appearance was so frightening that I started trembling when I saw her. And how could one not be frightened? Imagine a very dark and very thin woman, 7 arshins high. Apparently, an arshin is 28 inches. So 7 of those is 16 feet, 196 inches tall. So 7 arshins high with teeth 1.5 arshins long, 3.5 feet, sticking out on both sides like a wild boar, her hands adorned with bear claws. She came up, seized me, and rushed me off with her. The sky darkened from the great number of ravens, kites, and owls that flew in. They circled over Baba Yaga's courtyard, letting out a nasty cry which must cause one to feel horror even before the witch's arrival. But she didn't give the knights time for considerations and appeared in her mortar. She intensified her blows with the pestle, driving on this carriage of hers. Her eyes were like red-hot coals. Bloody foam flowed from her mouth, and her fangs made a dreadful noise when they scraped. "Oh-ho!" she roared, jumping from her mortar and throwing aside her pestle. "I could hardly wait for you, Svenislav. I'll eat well now. You came to take away my precious booty, and you came at the right time. I'm very hungry." So that was a lot more kind of, what is the word?
Unsettling?
Yes, unsettling. Like, it hits a lot harder than this, you know, typical witch kind of
Yeah.
imagery.
Especially
Um,
you came at the right time. Like, I was
mhm,
hungry. Here you are. You're
yep.
done.
And so there is mention of like this could just be, this Levshin author throwing a little bit of his own flair into there. This has been an oral story for who knows how long, and so this could have been changed and evolved and so many different alterations along the way. But that really stuck with me. In the stories that I've come across, I tried to find more information about why the name Baba Yaga was used also. It was generally thought or kind of interpreted to mean a like grandmother figure, Baba specifically standing for like a grandmother, maternal type figure. And Yaga was a little harder to pinpoint. In all of the potential translations, or could be this from different Slavic languages, they all had a very negative connotation. So we've got that for going for us. Some of the different avenues were meaning disease, horror, evil woman or witch, kind of the typical picture we're getting. Fury, rage, pain, worry, to torture something or somebody. So, all not good.
Torturing will come up in my portion.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but all of those connotations of that word kind of check with the description you gave and with the stories I found. So far, it's making sense.
Very much. And then there was another idea or kind of theory that had been thrown out there that Baba Yaga could be a general kind of not wanting to name the character name. So I know you listen to Morbid, but if anybody else listens to Morbid, they refer to a certain entity as a flesh pedestrian. So skin. Boop, boop, boop. I also don't want to say that, but so just kind of giving
He shall not be named.
Yeah. So there was the idea of like, is Baba Yaga a filler for a true name of this intensely evil, dangerous demon, or just like a really horrible woman that you don't want to give a name to because a name gives power in a lot of legends. Can't say where I land in believing which way or another, but I don't want to tempt fate. And so I can see why they might just say, you know what, this is a Baba Yaga. This is what we'll call it. This flesh pedestrian-esque name. One of the authors that I came across put it pretty well. This description in place of a name too could suggest that it was once a euphemism for another name or term, too holy or frightening to be spoken, and therefore now long forgotten. So it could be, we will never, may never, or it's going to continue to be locked down what the actual name of this being is. And I don't think I'm mad about that. And then I want to leave, I guess, one other way, I guess, of thinking about Baba Yaga. That comes back to my description of them as a Baba Yaga or the Baba Yaga. So there have been in several of these stories references of Baba Yaga as a singular, as the proper name for that one individual. But there have also been references to Baba Yagas as a collection of beings, or even a reincarnation of a being. So a Baba Yaga may have been killed or, destroyed somehow. Another one takes its place. And so in that sense, kind of continuing the mystique, the immortality of this being, and something that is just going to continue to live in the shadows.
And I feel like that brings us back to the first little story that you shared about them being everything dark really kind of lends to that telling of what a Baba Yaga is or what Baba Yagas are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so I think what I came down to, what I boiled all of this information down to, is essentially a forest being, a forest spirit. In some interpretations, I picked up on this like almost Mother Earth type being. And I apologize for being heavy on quotes, but I feel like they were just very eloquently said in several of these books that I came across. The last thing I want to leave with you is what I think hit the most, kind of stuck with me the longest. It is from Andreas Johns in Baba Yaga, the ambiguous mother and witch of the Russian folktale. So he states, perhaps the most intriguing feature that emerges when one examines a large corpus of folktales in which Baba Yaga appears is her striking ambiguity. And I feel like that's what I came across most. Is I got a lot of what a Baba Yaga isn't. I got a lot of what, generally falls under the Baba Yaga umbrella. But there was at no point did I feel like there was this pinpoint of this is Baba Yaga, a Baba
Yeah,
Yaga.
there doesn't seem to be anything that is just concrete, or like you said, like, yeah, this is what it is. It's not this, or it could be all of this,
Mm-hmm.
but what it actually is.
Yeah, even like with the description from that first 1780s writing, you had this like horrible being that was, it just seemed like they were out for blood, out for torture and hatred. And then there are other instances in quite a few other folk tales where Baba Yaga is more of a neutral. They heavily respect and thoughtfulness and curiosity without being rude, in a sense. So like you're not digging too deep. You're seeking knowledge, but you're not intrusive. It seemed like a lot of these things, there was a lot of emphasis put on like behaving properly. And when you don't, you incur the wrath of Baba Yaga. And if you do, you might, several of them, several of the stories I came across, the protagonist would come out unscathed. They would have this, strange ass story to tell about this woman in the woods, but they, you know, passed all of the challenges. They met all of the requirements and did all of the tasks that Baba Yaga asked of them, and were sent on their way with just this weird dream to share.
Funny that you mentioned dream.
Oh my god.
Are we ready to dive into some Baba Yaga encounters?
Yes, we are. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's really interesting that. So I've got 3 encounters for us, and they kind of touch on some of the things that you've mentioned.
I was like really curious to see what you were going to come across, seeing how ancient this story goes back. Are we going to find any modern day encounters? So
Some, yeah.
I'm ready.
So Baba Yaga encounters were a bit trickier to find because the encounters people describe are not encounters necessarily of a physical manifestation, but rather an etheric manifestation or a dream, like you mentioned.
Ooh. I feel like that ties into like the forest spirity
Yeah.
aspect. Okay.
Yeah. So, a commenter on a social media post, which will be linked in the show notes, describes one encounter following a newfound focus on intention and meditating. So, this user was sort of just trying to get their life back on track, and we're starting to set intentions for things and really focus on meditation and mental spiritual healing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what they said. I had, out of seemingly nowhere, a vision of an old woman, an old crone or hag specifically, came to me as I'm walking into my bedroom and sitting on my bed. This old woman was very mischievous, wanting me to be afraid in yet a playful way, as if maybe I shouldn't be after all. I shook this vision away as it wasn't comfortable, and I figured it was just my brain playing with me and humoring some sort of random fight scenario. This woman quickly came back with a slight smile, shrouded in thorns, completely surrounded, not covered necessarily, but as if the thorns were in unison with her being. After the second sighting of what seemed like a random vision, I happened to stumble upon the term Baba Yaga on Facebook somewhere. Upon research, the entirety of the legend of Baba Yaga fits down to the aesthetic and emotional aspects attached to the experience of witnessing her. So thinking back to kind of what you said in the beginning, it's she's mysterious. She's all the dark things that a child is born knowing, and this just kind of lends
Mhm.
itself well to that.
So that really feels like it aligns with Baba Yaga being this like forest spirit entity, like encompassed by kind of the incarnation of the world around us, nature, shrouded in thorns that are part of her, seemingly. Like that is
Yeah.
crazy.
And that visual with her slight smile shrouded
Mhm.
in thorns.
Like she's waiting for the right answer. Like she wants you to get it right, but if you don't, she has plans for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That is wild.
On the same post, another user writes, I was going through a dark time in my life when I dreamed of Baba Yaga. I was in an old forest when I saw her house on chicken legs walking toward me. It walked right up to me and crouched down so I could enter the garden gate. I walked through the garden out to the front door and paused before I knocked, suddenly unsure of how to address her when she said from inside the house, Call me Baba. She was sitting at her table eating, tossing the bones from her meal into a pot that had legs, and would run to catch the bones wherever she threw them.
Oh my god.
She, yeah, she didn't ask me to sit, so I stood while she broke down the situation I was going through and told me it would get worse before it got better, but it wouldn't kill me. She told me to get a cup of water from the well outside, that the water would live inside me and give me the strength to survive.
Oh my gosh.
The visual of the pot catching the
Yeah,
bones, I just pictured like a dog frantically running to try to catch table scraps as they're being thrown.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or almost like a waiter kind of like with this
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
overloaded platter. You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And also the imagery of that the well water inside of them and like strengthening them through this. And I think like I would, kind of groan at first, but really appreciate that this is gonna be pretty shitty, but you're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
And kind of carrying that reassurance with me, like as scary as I'm sure that would have been, to know that like there is another side to this and I will get through this.
Yeah. And I feel like this one specific encounter lends itself to the other side of the origin story that you were sharing of like,
Mm.
she's not necessarily bad. You need to do the right things. You need to cross all your T's and dot all your I's if you want things to go right. But she's creepy and scary, but not necessarily bad. So it's
And
really
I know
hard knowing what she is.
kind of iconic. That feels like
Yeah.
that feels like my dream to be like the witch in the woods that nobody wants to mess with, but I'll help you if you're not an
Oh,
asshole.
yeah. She's a girl's girl for sure.
Yeah. That kind of like it reminds me of that first book that I quoted too, where there was this interpretation of Baba Yaga being kind of a feminist icon in a way of empowerment and strength and helping each other through these things, and not, like we said, not all evil. And
Right.
I feel like a lot of times stories like this or characters like this especially when they've been passed down orally for who knows how long, how confidently can we say that the most recent depictions are not heavily skewed in a like misogynistic light, to depict them as evil, to depict them as witches to be burned at a stake, and not these wise women to be learned from or to be like honored and respected and revered. They're powerful, but not necessarily malicious. Who knows?
Yeah. And it's an interesting tie-in too, to think back to like even the Salem witch trials, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why was it that those women were burned at the stake?
Mm-hmm.
Was it because
I can get
they
into
weren't
a whole
fitting
rabbit hole.
in? Yeah, right. They just weren't fitting in with what society expected of women. So
Yep.
suddenly they were villainized and ultimately killed because of that. And who knows, is that what happened to Baba Yaga? And that's why we see her now, and the same reason why we see witches in general now typically as like a negative thing.
Yeah, but I feel that there is a very strong turn in the tide recently, like within the last couple of decades or so. Like there's a big interest in like pagan and Wiccan rituals, and I just kind of reimagining of what a witch or that kind of story about these women really means. How much of it is based in fact, and how much of it is they had a partner who respected them, or they helped save a lot of people, and Sarah down the road is kind of jealous and would like some more of that attention back.
Yeah, we could go down a whole rabbit hole with the Salem witch trials, but I am always just infuriated by the children who thought like they were getting something out of it. And
Yeah.
I just am like, what? Like, do
But at the
you
same time, like,
realize?
kids are being fueled by the stuff that they learn at home now and back then, and like, but yeah, the I I can't, or we'll be here all night.
Yeah. And I mean, I know the children they didn't realize what they did because they don't have the mental capacity to do so. But
Mhm.
anyways, I
But I
digress.
feel
Yeah.
that. Our
Uh,
whole life is a digression from
yes. Yeah. Um, and so this last story I have
Oh, I forgot you had another one.
is neither here nor there. I'm just going to share
Mm.
it.
Okay.
So, this last encounter story that I have comes from the creepypasta author, The Solemn Sage. And in this story is part of a series of stories that this author is sharing on one thread. And so that will be linked in there in our show notes. Um, but in this story, I'll just give you some of the author's backstory. They're currently in graduate school
Mhm.
and they're working on research. And, when you're trying to get that graduate degree, it's very stressful. You're putting in long hours. It's very very time consuming, and you almost can work yourself into a sense of hysteria.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of where this author is as they write. The first encounter I had as a PhD student was with Marionette. Scientists aren't strangers to working late, graduate students and postdoctoral fellows, especially. A lot of those great papers usually came from at least one sleepless night or two, while professors and lab heads usually rush out at around 5 p.m. Some of you might admire that type of passion, but I can tell you that passion has nothing to do with it. It's fear, it's circumstance, it's being trapped in your goddamn lab till 3 a.m. Sorry, let me bring it back. After choosing a dissertation lab, I was learning a lot of methodologies and was a bit too enthusiastic about troubleshooting. The sun had gone down hours ago, and I pulled off a latex glove to check the time on my phone. 11 p.m. I decided that was enough for the day and packed up my things to head down to the first floor. our lab being on the second. Now, some of these buildings are beautiful during the day, but absolutely terrifying at night. Everything echoes. The hair on your neck is always standing on end. And there's a feeling that you're being watched that makes you look around constantly. I wasn't a fan of any of it, so I rushed down on the steps, my eyes glued to my phone as I approached the glass door before something made me look up as my hand reached the bar handle. A few feet from the door, staring right at me, was a ridiculously tall, thin woman in a dirty white gown. Her hair was disheveled and fell around a disturbingly large grin. Her pale arms were grossly long. I mean, her wingspan could have blocked the entire entrance to the outside and then some. She held her hands up, playfully wiggled her fingers, and from under the gown slid a puppet. It looked incredibly lifelike as it bowed and did an unsettling jig. Something just wasn't right as its head spun as it danced. I was completely transfixed when it took a bow and gestured for me to join it. I was able to snap myself out of it and backed away. I hurried back upstairs to the second floor where I hoped I could hurry to another side exit a little way down the hall. I couldn't get to my car easily from there, but screw it, I thought. If I ran fast enough, I could make a break for the hospital down the street, catch a ride share home.
Or just stay in the emergency room.
Yeah.
with
I'm
people.
actually having a panic attack right now. Can I just stay here?
Yeah.
I descended another set of stairs, and as I got to the door, there she was again. This time, sitting on her haunches behind her puppet, its hands on its hips, leaned to one side quizzically. She nodded at me to come outside. Once again, I sprinted upstairs and this time headed for the main entrance. I opted for the stairs instead of the elevator and burst into the lobby, which was surrounded by glass walls that faced the vehicle entrance. I took a walk around the inside of the lobby, trying to peek around the concrete pillars, out from when I heard a soft tap, tap, tap coming from the glass pane a few feet from me. There it was again, right up against the glass, but now I could see it fully. It wasn't a puppet. It it was the corpse of a young woman, her torn face pinned back into a grotesque smile, her eyes reflecting the agony of her last moments. The woman was petting it from behind one of the concrete pillars. Even from inside, I could hear her raspy, childlike voice. Play. I hadn't planned on staying the night, but I also wasn't stupid enough to think I could outrun whatever the hell she is. Hell, I'm still not convinced there aren't multiple of her. Some experiment gone wrong or a gaggle of entities drawn to places of research. I acquiesced and headed back upstairs toward the break room. It at least had a couple of couches for me to sleep on and a couple of vending machines so I wouldn't go hungry. A postdoc who I had seen several times during the day was cleaning a bowl at the sink. The visual of that, after all the chaos that this person has just gone through, and there's this person nonchalantly washing dishes. Yeah, and we'll see why.
Oh,
Staying late too, huh? He looked over as he grabbed some paper towels. I nodded and fell onto the couch behind him. He took another glance at me before speaking again. At least you're smart enough to not try and push past her. Don't worry, she's gone by 3 a.m. On the
what?
dot, every time. He opened a cabinet and tossed me one of his ramen packages. Just try to plan your experiments around her next time, or make sure you bring something to make yourself comfortable. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. We spent the night talking and became fast friends. Still talk to him today. I learned that everyone called her Marionette for obvious reasons. From what I've gathered from conferences, that thing has been sighted at every research building around the globe. Some
Are
call her
you
a
kidding?
witch. Others are convinced she's someone called Baba Yaga. Others think she represents the spirits of those from clinical trials gone wrong. When I described her and her puppet to my advisor, He clicked around on his computer and made a phone call to administration. The puppet's description matched a student that had been missing for 3 days, all the way from Florida. Can you believe that? Much to my previous and current boss's chagrin, I make sure I am nowhere near a research building late at night anymore. My work life balance is much too important.
What the hell?
So, this one
I
kind of ties in so many of the things.
I was going to add, so I wish I had gone down this other rabbit hole of a story that I heard about Baba Yaga and a small doll that she used in one of her encounters with this girl to do her bidding. And like the doll was part of Baba Yaga, but separate in that like they seemed to have different like intentions or different desires for what was happening. So that's all I could think about this whole story, and I am so upset that I didn't look further into that to like really be able to pull more connections.
That's crazy because it seems like her puppet is doing her bidding. Her puppet
Mhm.
is the one beckoning this person to come and play.
Oh
There
my god.
and it, it seems like maybe the puppet before this girl from Florida who went missing maybe beckoned her to come play, and the
Right. And
person,
that's your fate if you
yeah,
push past.
right, and the
Ugh.
person nonchalantly washing dishes must have seen some shit because
But
he's like,
also, like, warn somebody.
yeah, he
"Hey,
says, I'm
hey,
gonna
don't
wash
say
my dishes.
this." Yeah, like, maybe fast friends, but after, like, a to the side of the head, like, "Bro, what the heck?"
Yeah, I that was just the creepiest story, but hearing the origin, it's really interesting to hear all of those little pieces. Uh,
Yeah.
Specifically the part where maybe some things she represents the spirits from clinical trials gone wrong. It makes me think of, when you were talking about flesh pedestrians, how it's just an accumulation of these things and these ideas, and you can't really pinpoint what it is because it could be so many things.
Mhm. Yeah. It like, so many things fall under that umbrella of victims of, like, the mood, the energy around these things that is so horrifying and also really makes me hate the idea that Baba Yaga is an umbrella term for these beings and not just a singular entity. If it
Yeah,
was just one, like, at least you know where it is at XYZ time, but, like, the Baba Yagas feels like that's more what we're working with, almost like the Chupacabras, the Pukwudgies. It
right.
is that group of things, and I hate that after
Yeah.
hearing this story.
I know that I have zero plans to do any research in any buildings.
I'm gonna cancel that PhD program, that I was signed up for after getting my associates and bachelor's and ever going to take a college course.
Yeah,
We're not talking about it now.
it's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Yeah, for real. Hard pass. Oh
Yeah.
my god. So I'm not sleeping tonight, I guess. Thank
I
you.
know. It's so creepy.
Oh,
And I think the scariest thing is all of the unknowns. I have, if it was one thing or another, that's a concrete idea to wrap my
mhm.
brain around. And I can rationalize it as much as you can rationalize these things that we're talking about. But,
You
like,
can trick your brain to think like, "Okay,
yeah,
this is it,"
I can put a name
it will
to a
be fine.
face kind of thing, but I don't want to put any name towards this face that we've heard about today.
There's too many names to
And too
attribute to
many
this
faces.
place. I hate that. All I'm picturing is that, like,
Oh, the
oh god.
pinned back smile.
Yeah, I forget that, like, only you can see me, but yes, that
Yeah.
just oh, that fake please. And if I can add, just for your own entertainment, try to notice all of the mentions of Baba Yaga that you might see in, everyday movies, videos. I was noticing, I play a game called Stardew Valley, and in their like Spirits Eve festival, there is a house on chicken feet in a maze. Um, and when I mentioned to Nate what we were talking about tonight, he goes, "Oh, the boogeyman." And I was like, "No, no, no." And he goes, "Yeah, the boogeyman from John Wick." And I was like, "Yes, but no." Like we're bringing it
Oh,
back. So like even in current, modern day depictions, it's everywhere. And
yeah.
I think it ties that back to Baba Yaga is and was and always has been and always will be. You're
Oh,
welcome.
hate that so much.
Pained smile.
Yeah. And
Cool,
so,
cool, cool, cool,
who
cool.
knows what Baba Yaga is? Definitely. Well, this was so fun to learn about. I
Mhm.
mean, not fun.
Yes.
Definitely not fun. Interesting, to
Yep.
say the least. My head is spinning, and I'm gonna have a hard time going to sleep tonight.
Well, I'm here if you need me. Sending you memes. Love
Yes,
you so
we
much.
we hope we didn't scare you too much and that we piqued your interest and have your curiosity running wild like ours is.
And if we did scare you, let us know. Let us
Yeah.
know, if you are inspired to kind of go down your own little research trails, or if you never want to hear from us again, we just want to know how we've touched your lives.
Just be nice about it. We're sensitive. We'll cry easy.
I'll have Nate read them. He'll
We
read
had
them.
we had our first kind of little snarky run in on YouTube, and I went with the kill 'em with kindness. That's kind of been my motto for things. Maybe it's a new leaf I've turned now that I'm 30, but I just I don't have the energy to allow negativity or to engage with negativity. And so when someone's a jerk to me, I'm just trying to be as nice as I possibly can be. And so this person um commented on one of the reels we created,
Okay, what is this even about?
the Danny DeVito. Yeah. They were like, WTF are you even talking about? And just sweet as could be, I was like, I understand that this could be confusing without context. Here's our full episode. And they apologized. They
I
wrote
was
back.
gonna say they were, like, super chill about it afterwards, and, like, I've had those days. I don't comment on people's things about it, but I'm also very different from so many people, so
So it was, it was kudos to them for owning that they were rude a little bit, and at least naming why they were rude, like they'd had a bad day,
yeah,
and it seemed like my kindness kind of struck a chord with them and made them be like, oh, I had no reason to be mean to you.
right? I didn't think I was gonna get this far,
Yeah,
and
right, exactly.
record scratch.
Yes. So yes, thank you all for tuning in. You guys have
Thank
had
you.
some great support for us. We've got a pretty decent following that's increasing across our social media platforms. If you could do us a favor and like our posts when you see them, comment on them, let us know that you're seeing them, subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening. And if you're so inclined to leave a review, that stuff will really help our podcast reach more people.
Yes, because the more people we reach, the more ideas we can gather, and the longer we can do this. And I'm
Yes.
so happy, like, I've always been interested in these things, but, like, having a concrete topic to follow up on and to look into has been so cool. And so we would love to hear from as many people as we can, that don't hear from us all the time and are just like, "Okay." Let us know what you wanna hear. Let us know if there is a lesser known cryptid or folktale that is common in your culture, but, may not be so well known in the United States. That's the kind of stuff that I'm really looking forward
Yes.
to. So we will leave you with that. If you do have any feedback for us, any topics you want to share or would be interested in hearing, we do have a few Google Forms that you can find in our Facebook page and our Instagram. I believe we have linked for sure in those areas that if you feel so inclined, you can leave us a quick little comment or even just like a, hey, love you guys. We would love to hear from you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope to hear from you, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Bye.
Bye. If you have any stories of a Baba Yaga, if you've heard of Baba Yaga, or if you have any Baba Yaga-esque stories to share with us, we hope that you will send those in. Reach out to us at asthecrowflies.pod@gmail.com with any stories you want to share. We are guac.
She is I am she. We are guacamole.